Hey everybody, welcome on back to Rubbin is Racing. This podcast is brought to you by NASCAR. We're in the 25th of 36 races this season. It is flying by, and we're going into the Glen. Go bowling at the Glen at Watkins Glen, 3 p.m. Eastern Time this Sunday on USA. It's the second road course in a row, and after the Glen, we go to Daytona, and that's the end of the regular season. So it's shaping up to be a great season, and there's a lot to look at as we go into the standings going into the playoffs. So make sure you tune in to go bowling at the Glen at Watkins Glen, 3 p.m. Eastern Time this Sunday on USA. All right, boys, welcome on back. Headlines from this week, we'll jump right into it. There's an update on the SVG moving to NASCAR next season. This week he was released from his Supercars contract, so now it's up to Trackhouse to finalize the deal on this end. So it's all but a given that SVG is coming over to the Cup Series. Is this a good idea or a bad idea, considering that the guy has never raced on an oval?
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't like it.
I think his career could only go down.
Right.
Yeah. first attempt he won. He could be a guy, which would be kind of disastrous if he just gets the contract and just never wins again.
Yeah. And you talk about starting out on a high, and he's not a one-trick pony because he had a good weekend.
Yeah, and he's a great driver.
Great driver.
Amazing supercar driver, but I just don't know if it will translate into him being a great NASCAR driver consistently.
Yeah, like maybe a couple of seasons where he does, racing for, Project 91 off and on something outside of a street course or a road course. But it looks like it's going to be one of these full season things. Welcome to the Cup, I guess. Spider?
I think it's only a good move if he does Xfinity and ovals practice leading up to it. Like, I don't think he deserves – I mean, I'm not trying to be too critical on him, but I don't think he deserves a full-time Cup ride this quick. You kind of, as he said in a recent interview I heard with him, you kind of got to pay your dues. And I don't think putting him in a Cup ride when he doesn't have immense oval experience is a great idea. I do agree with Quiggs that he could really only go down from here. Like, I think his average finish now is 5th between the two races he started. So it's going to be very hard to keep up those expectations, especially if he were just to be thrust into a full-time Cup season. And also, I'm not saying I'm not for it. Don't get me wrong. I want to see SVG race. I do think he probably needs some practice in Xfinity and, select Cup races next year, I think would probably be the ideal run of show. But that also being said, I was a big fan of the Project 91, the philosophy behind it. This seat and charter and car that was used to get, veteran drivers in other motorsports disciplines to come in and run in the NASCAR Cup Series. I thought that was great for the fans to be able to see people try their hand at this new racing experience we call the NASCAR Cup Series. So if it's going to be just him in the 91, I'm a little bit sad because part of me feels like that was a cool revolving door of talent that we would otherwise not see. And now it seems like that might just be SVG's exclusively. But I also think it's going to be hard for Trackhouse. It's not a lot of teams willing to part with charters. At least that's how it seems. Everyone doesn't want to give up their car. Understandably so. We saw the charter price rise immensely the last couple of years, and you got teams like 2311 that are probably in the camp for another charter as well. You've got Rick Ware Racing, who just made a big time commitment to Justin Haley in a multi-year contract that looks like they're positioning themselves to be a competitive factor moving forward. So I don't really know how they're going to get SVG the looks, but I'm here for it.
I mean, he could kind of be an Allmendinger type guy where you don't expect, it's like a pick your spots kind of guy where Allmendinger is not going to be effective in majority of the races, but there's a lot of races where he's up top near all the favorites just because he's so specialized. Like, that could be an SVG, and it's not an awful strategy. You're not going to win any championships that way, but you can get a race win.
I get patriotic, and I say all this stuff about these guys coming over to the United States, try to steal our cheese, and I obviously say that tongue in cheek. But we all want this guy to win. I think we all want him to be successful. Just perhaps it's moving along a little bit too quickly.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think it's fair to say. Toughest guy ever in NASCAR revealed this week. Kevin Harvick revealed at Indianapolis prior to the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard that he raced for 6 weeks with broken ribs after a June break. This is the deal. This is a quote from Kevin Harvick. I fell down a flight of steps in Italy. His son was over in Europe racing karts, he said, and I had a stack of busted ribs. I'd watched this. So after the June break, for 6 weeks, he had broken rib. Like those first 3 weeks, he kind of shit the bed and then gradually got better with his finishes. But I think that's such a cool story for people to remember, particularly on his last year in NASCAR. Have you guys ever broken a rib?
No, but I could imagine it'd be terrible.
Have you?
Yeah,
Spider?
that sounds... I have not. It sounds like one of the worst pains, especially I'm not sure even if he's been in wrecks in those 6 weeks, but I can't imagine wrecking a car with a broken rib. Or even like the Richmond experience we had, 130 degrees in there. I would imagine breaking a rib provides pretty labored breathing. And when you're hot, sweating your dick off in a car, that's probably the last thing you want to deal with.
I appreciate you saying that we had the experience, but again, people know I was too fat to drive. I broke a rib once, speaking about too fat to drive, because I got on a water flume with my sons when they were kids, and it was one bar, like to hold us into the cart. So I put the bar against my belly, and I noticed my kids had all this room in the world. So then I tucked it in underneath my ribs so my kids were a little bit safer. And on the first drop, the water flume stops where it splashes all the water on people. And I snapped a rib. I'm telling you, I've had a lot of stuff happen to me on this 51 years or whatever. Broken ribs are no fucking joke. So I don't know. This kind of cements Kevin Harvick. If I needed any other reason to love the guy, I love this story, so that's why I threw it in there.
Seems like a tough racing injury, too. I feel like a lot of your, like, the long drive, it's a lot of, like, torso stuff where, I don't know, I mean, I guess it'd be worse to, like, have a broken arm. But, yeah, that would be very painful to race with that.
Like we saw Briscoe with the broken hand, right, who had raced. But then we also see like Bowman was out with the back and obviously Chase with the broken leg. I think this is kind of a cool story that he's going with broken ribs. The update for us this week on Gragson, because we spoke about it in last week's podcast. And as soon as we released the podcast, Gragson released on, I believe, that Thursday, a statement asking to leave Legacy Motor Club. I'll read the statement. I know it's kind of ancient history, but I've asked Legacy Motor Club to release me from my contract so that I can take time to work through the NASCAR reinstatement process. I love racing. I'm looking forward to a second chance to compete for wins at the highest level of NASCAR, and most importantly, make my family, my team, and the fans proud of me once again. I want a second chance to compete for wins at the highest level of NASCAR. That's somebody who doesn't want to drop back down to Xfinity, right? I mean, that's what we're reading there. And to release me from my contract so that I can take time to work through the NASCAR reinstatement process. That tells me that maybe the writing was on the wall at Legacy, and he knows he has to jump through some hoops in order to get back in NASCAR's good graces.
Yeah.
I think what Noah Gragson did with liking that meme was stupid. And I think we all agree that it was stupid. Even if you don't agree that the punishment is fitting the crime, it was a dumb thing to do. But I think the way he's handling it since then has been pretty spot on, don't you?
Yeah, but I don't know. I read that, and it was like one of those, like, he's choosing to leave. Like, he's...
Oh, you can't fire me. I quit. That's it.
A little bit more like, hey, we're going to get rid of you. Like, you can say that it's your choice if you want. Which, I don't know. Last week we talked about it. In hindsight, it was kind of like, of course, they were going to get rid of him, I think. Like, we should have known that. But, yeah, I think that was more like a, hey, we're going to part ways. Like, you can say it's on your own volition. Is that a word? Volition?
Yeah, volition.
Volition, if you want. But, yeah, I don't think he, like, I don't know. Yeah.
So taking Legacy, though, now out of the picture. Legacy, essentially, whether it was their move or Noah's move, whether they had predetermined plans to look for a reason to put John Hunter in the seat. You know, there's all those theories floating around. Whatever it is, it's done. Like, this part of this controversy is done. He's no longer out with, he's no longer with Legacy. What happens next, if we're going to guess? Because there's no way that we're going to know, so I just want to put out a guess. Where does Noah Gragson end up by the beginning of next season? Spider, what do you think he is?
So I'll give you two answers.
'Kay.
I would like to see him take over one of the Colleague cars and go back to Chevy. Now, there's been a lot of buzz recently about A.J. Allmendinger's commitment to the Cup level and how he asked Matt Colleague to be, he preferred to just focus on Xfinity and go run for a championship there. I'm not saying A.J. is leaving. I'm saying if he does leave, I would love to see Noah take that seat. If not that one, the other one that Austin Hill or Chandler Smith is rumored for, I think Noah Gragson, as bad as he was this year, he has a year of experience running in these Cup cars that is valuable. These young guys, or I guess Austin Hill's a little bit older, but it's going to take Chandler Smith some time to get there should that become his car, whereas Noah Gragson has an advantage. I personally, as a fan of Noah, and I agree with you guys, it was a dumb thing he did. He's hopefully can learn and grow from it. I would like to see him in one of the Colleague cars. What I think is more realistic is for him to take a step back and return to Xfinity for the next year. You look at his Xfinity season last year, and he definitely proved himself. He proved his talent. He proved he was worthy. The one thing he doesn't have is an Xfinity championship. So I think that could be in the cards for him. Maybe return to Junior Motorsports and hopefully take that team back to championship. Now, I don't know if that's something that's on the table for JRM. I know Josh Berry's obviously vacating a seat, so maybe Noah steps in there. But I would like to see him remain in Cup. I know that's probably asking a lot. But if not Cup, I think it's most realistic for him to go back to Xfinity for Junior Motorsports. And I don't really know if it's not one of those two things. Probably the Junior Motorsports thing would probably be obviously the most probable. If it's not one of those things, I have no idea what it means for Noah Gragson.
I think that is the best move. Idea. What the Xfinity move? I think. Yeah. I know he said in his quote he wants to do it at the highest level, but he can go down. And I'm saying he can go down like as if he can just do it. Right. You got to find teams, but I'm not even going to worry about that. But he goes down there. He's got a year where he should dominate. He's dominated it before. He's had a year of Cup experience. He should be better than he was. Dominates, the dust all settles, and instead of like trying to get his way onto a Cup team next year where he'll be like a guy that like if he gets on a team, it's going to be one of the lower level teams and somebody's taking a chance on him. If he does Xfinity, dominates, he'll be the hottest guy to get for a Cup Series.
So if like Truex does walk away next, well, no, he signed a multi-year deal, but maybe like an Amarola or somebody who stays on for another year.
I think if he's willing to do it, that's his best move.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this. Last year, Noah took the 42 over and replaced Ty Dillon. Do you think we could potentially see that happen 2 consecutive years? Spire Motorsports just signed Corey LaJoie, and there's a lot of talk that Ty Dillon may be shown the door at the conclusion of this season. Do you think that would be something that's a possibility? I would probably be game for that.
Yeah, it could happen.
Oh, man, Ty would just feel miserable about that. Losing a job twice to the same dude? Yikes.
Yeah, that...
But either way, I think one of the things that's left out of this is that by making this statement, it also does take some of the pressure off of his sponsors. Do you know what I mean? Because I think, NASCAR fans in particular, the hardcore NASCAR fans, had a big lashing out against Legacy when they'd come down on Noah. We were in Michigan at the time. A lot of people had taken their T-shirts, put like duct tape across it, "Fuck Legacy Motor Club," people who are hardcore NASCAR fans. So whenever you're involved with somebody on the, the ad side, and you would need to say, "Hey, we're parting ways with him" or something like that, that could also lead to a absolute. It could lead to problems. So it's good that he cut ties with Legacy and it takes some of the pressure off of their advertisers. Let's get into what happened this week. We'll go to the Indy road course. A lot of people saying relatively boring race or an uneventful race. Long green flag runs. There was 77 laps on the green flag at the end of the race. I liked it, right? I love this no stage break thing.
Yeah.
I think it's changed the way that people, obviously drive road course races, but I think it makes it a lot more fun to watch. And, it wasn't, there was a close margin of victory, but you had the second, the most popular driver in the world in P2, kind of breathing down the neck of this guy who, for all intents and purposes, should not have been in P1, right? I mean, just from an underdog type thing. So I think there was a lot to look at in this race. But Michael McDowell came in. He won stage 1. I thought it was wild because I started to see Joey Logano just like wrecking people. It's like very uncharacteristic. Then Denny wins stage 2. I'm going to get into that fact in a second about the McDowell and Denny jawing. And then Michael McDowell takes a checkered flag for his second career win, snapping a 94-race winless streak. NASCAR put up a graphic about the winless streaks that were broken by Blaney and Truex and Ricky Stenhouse and McDowell and all this stuff. So it's been a real great year for that type of stuff. But I'm going to ask you guys this question. So McDowell's first win came at Daytona. And it came at Daytona where I think the guys who were in the lead, 1 and 2, all of a sudden crashed, so he snuck in. So people don't give that win a lot of credit. I mean, it's, he's Daytona winner, Michael McDowell. They don't give him a lot of credit. Is this a more important win? Like this, it doesn't make him a one-hit wonder. Is this a more important win?
I think it's the way he ran a perfect race. Like, I think he fully deserved that win and, earned it. And it was, Daytona, it's like wreckfest and anything can happen. Like, he ran an unbelievable race. And I think, I don't think it means more than a Daytona win, but, I think he did more himself to get this win.
I thought this one was much more impressive.
Yeah, that's the word that I was looking for. It's more impressive.
Stage 1 came in second for stage 2, and then takes the checkered, and like you said, ran a flawless race.
Versus one of the best road course drivers in NASCAR history that needed a win.
Yeah,
it's not like it was just middle of the season, everybody's just out there for another week of racing. He had a guy who needed a win, chasing him down and held him off, which I thought was great.
It sounds a lot better on paper than the race probably was.
Yeah.
Just when you kind of talk about it in
it's
retrospect.
Road courses, though.
Yeah.
Road courses can be tough.
And it's a flat road course as well. We switch it up a little bit going into Watkins Glen. But yeah, so I'm extremely happy for this guy. Spider, what do you think? Bigger than Daytona?
No, absolutely not. Daytona's the pinnacle. That's the biggest one you can have. And I think Michael McDowell will tell you the same himself, especially for a first win to be able to lift that Daytona 500 trophy, or at least attempt to. That thing's fucking massive, and it's probably much more significant for Michael McDowell. I do hear what you're saying. There was a little bit of hey, it's a super speedway race. Anyone can win at Daytona. But to me, that win was equally as impressive. If you look at the car that he won that fucking race in, the thing was beat to shit. So he experienced pretty substantial adversity in that Daytona 500, and he still managed to pull it out. It's like survival of the fittest as far as I'm concerned. He stayed in the race. He put himself in a position to win, and he got it. He got it. So for his first win to be the Daytona 500, I think that will always be special to him. And I do see what you're saying about this win, kind of silencing some of the people saying that he just got lucky. I've been on the Michael McDowell train since he won that Daytona 500. Call me a bandwagon, call me a front runner, whatever you want to do. But he is a legitimate driver. He over-delivers consistently for Front Row Motorsports, and I think even before this race, he was rewarded with a contract extension, and him and his teammate, Todd Gilliland, are back at Front Row. There's been a lot of talk about Zane Smith potentially sneaking into one of those rides. He's deserved it. He's deserving, and as Quigg said, he ran a near-perfect race. It was exciting, and I didn't think it was boring, despite some of the criticism and haters on this race after the fact. Like you said, Chase Elliott was breathing down his neck with the playoff shot on the line. So, also back to the significance of each win, I think that if any driver would prefer, maybe I'm wrong, I think the drivers would prefer having a trophy on the Indy Oval rather than the Indy Road Course. Not saying I did not enjoy the race, but I still think he's, in terms of if you could only have 2 wins, McDowell has a pretty good portfolio. His 1-2 punch is pretty solid, at least in terms of the tracks that he won at. Between Daytona and then now, obviously, Indy Motor Speedway is beautiful, iconic, and yeah, I couldn't be more happy for him. So
do you think
everything's coming up for him.
Do you think he got fucked then, Spider? Because Front Row re-signs him like 3 days before he goes out and breaks a 90. Like, he's been doing this for a long time. Like, if you look at Michael McDowell's history, like he's been in every part of the garage. He's not some guy that was handed a seat. Like, he was washing cars at some point, I believe. So he goes, he only has the one win for such a long career. They re-sign him to next season, which is a positive. Then he bangs out a big win at the end of the season versus Chase out the whole deal. He probably could have held out for,
you definitely
for more money.
Want, in a negotiation, you want that win to come right before the contract.
Yeah, that
right
number
after.
gets bigger
absolutely.
now. Yeah,
absolutely. But I also think there's a little bit of like the Corey LaJoie, Spire Motorsports vibe here, where McDowell's 38 years old. Like, he probably is not going to go to a new team and, help them and like rebrand his whole career. I think he's found a home at Front Row, and he's proven that they have at least decent equipment now with the next gen cars, and he has a chance to win some of these races. I think it makes sense. I also think that it's great for him because he's a veteran presence that the young gun Todd Gilliland can learn off of. There's so much turnover with these rides. Like, back to the Noah thing, it's hard for these guys to just like build and gain experience, especially when they only really have a year to like put up or get out. So you look at Todd Gilliland from last year to this year, he's improved substantially, and then McDowell seems to be a much more competitive threat this year as well. So I really like what they did. Granted, I agree with you that if the win were to come prior to this, it probably would have got him more money or more opportunity or more leverage, whatever you want to call it. But I'm still super optimistic for what Front Row Motorsports is building. I also saw in the news today, let me just throw in a little headline here. Ford is like shopping for teams.
Really?
Ford wants to buy or like fund, and I don't even know what the term is. They want another Ford team. So maybe team that's current.
And they want to like basically expansion team that, not like take over an existing team and switch them to Ford. The
way I understand it, they want to take a current either Toyota or Chevy's team and make them a Ford team, which was extremely I would say breaking news to me. If you look at it, it seems like Ford's got their hands full between Front Row Motorsports showing speed, as I just outlined, and then the last two races with RFK winning. I don't know if unless Ford's just going for a complete total takeover of the sport, but they seem to be hot right now, and I think they should almost kind of just continue to build on the teams they already have in their portfolio. I also think this would be horrible news for Stewart-Haas Racing if Ford were to gain another team, because then they'd probably be given even less attention, even less love, when I think they could need it right now.
And that's what happened with Legacy. Like, Legacy felt like they were the redheaded stepchild of Chevy, and it's one of the reasons they made the move to Toyota. So I don't know if it's a great idea either. But either way, Michael McDowell is not a one-hit wonder. He's the 14th winner so far this regular season, which kind of shakes up the playoff picture a little bit. This is the first win for Ford on a road course since Ryan Blaney at the Roval in 2018. I thought that was shocking that Ford hasn't had a win in 5 years on a road course. From the car, it was kind of cool because I was listening to McDowell, and he said to his crew chief, "Give me gaps, no more feedback, please." Like, when these guys keep throwing all those stats and shit at him, finally he was like, just give me where the guy is, in back of me. No more fucking feedback. He was all business. And the second thing that I was listening to was, as he had won, the first thing that he'd said was, "Go get my family." Because apparently they weren't there for the first one.
They weren't.
Is it common knowledge about his family? Because I looked it up. So we have casual NASCAR or new NASCAR fans here. So when you see the tradition afterwards where the family or the crew of the people go and they kiss that small line of bricks at the brickyard. I mean, the brickyard used to be all brick, and people were dying on it because they're racing on fucking brick. So when they paved it over, they only left that small little stretch of brick. So when his family was out there, it took me aback a little bit because McDowell looks like McDowell. His wife's a blonde. His kids are all towhead blondes and stuff. And there was this other kid there with him. I thought it was like a friend of his son's. And then I'd seen that this kid also had, did you notice this kid had the birth defect?
No.
So Michael McDowell and his wife, this is extraordinary. Michael McDowell, maybe this is my history segment. Michael McDowell and his wife had 3 children, right? 3 biological children. And again, like I'm saying, they all look like McDowells, pale and blonde. And then they went to China to adopt a child, a 4th child. This child was born with something called ectrodactyly. I know about it because Jim Lampley, my favorite boxing announcer, was married to a woman who also had it. And it's when you have these cleft hands and feet. Some people call it lobster claws, like when it happens. So this young boy was born in China, and he was essentially like cast out, thrown in a dumpster at like 5 weeks old because he had this birth defect. So the fucking McDowells go over to China, and the kid's like 6 months old, and they adopt him.
Really?
And then after that, they just had another kid. So now they have 5 kids. And so when you see them all kind of out there kissing the brick, you see like, one kid who doesn't fit in. That's his son, Lucas. So if you're not a Michael McDowell fan because of his background, because of the person that he seems to be, so I'm an adoptive parent. I don't know if you guys know that, but Mick's adopted. Every NASCAR person that we run into has a charity attached to their name, and we're always impressed by it. Some more than others, obviously, who are very hands-on, but they're all extremely charitable. It's one of the things I love about this sport. But giving a kid like that a chance, like Michael McDowell did, that's fucking extraordinary. And so if you're not rooting for him before, maybe you should think about it now. So little Lucas was in him with the pictures, and it was just kind of awesome to see. And also, he was fucking with Denny Hamlin. Did you see what they were going back and forth on Twitter beforehand?
I did see that.
I love that. Denny Hamlin all of a sudden tweets that the race is chases to win or something like that, and Michael McDowell won't be in contention. And McDowell sends back.
They were saying his son was going at it with Denny.
Oh, no, Lucas. No, yeah.
I thought that for a second,
No.
too,
So
McDowell
is fucking with Denny on Twitter saying, check your stats or something, because he knew that he had a fast car and that he's going to do well on this.
Yeah.
And then so to see him and Denny go like neck and neck into, the end of the second stage where Denny had won, and obviously Denny didn't finish as well as he would have wanted to. And so action's detrimental. And I haven't listened to it. McDowell came in with the brick trophy. So they sat down together because Denny loves to bust balls, and it seems like they both have a pretty good sense of humor. So I don't know. It's all warm and fuzzy with me about the winner of this race.
McDowell was like, I'm planning on proving you wrong or something like that to Denny Hamlin. But back to the family thing, it's just a very beautiful moment. McDowell said in a post-race interview, he's like, he only gets the chance to bring his family to certain races where he feels like he's got a really good shot at winning. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad they made it out to Indy for this. That sounded like I said India. Mm-hmm. I'm glad they made it out to Indy for this race. And also it's like, he said that at the Daytona 500, he didn't get to celebrate with his family. So they finally got the moment that they didn't get to share in Daytona after winning the 500. So beautiful moment. And then also, we've been lucky to meet a lot of these guys. You walk around the garage, some of them will just say hello or give you a head nod and keep it moving, quick fist bump. McDowell's always got a giant grin, ear to ear, smiling. Like he lives every day like it's just the best day of his life. So it's very hard for me not to root for him, especially when he's telling Denny Hamlin, like, hey, you're flat out wrong. I can't wait to prove it to you on Sunday. And then he just fucking delivers. We
should, in a non-stalker way, find out all the races his family's going to, if for gambling purposes.
You're right.
If he if he only brings them to
scumbag degenerate this guy
four or five races, we need to know which ones those are so we can.
I just told the most heartwarming fucking story about a kid thrown in a dumpster in China, and Quiggs wants to fucking go through their garbage so it knows when they're traveling to another track.
Money's in the crumbs.
A winner's a winner.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
I could use one.
Right. By the way, huge weekend for God. Like McDowell, big time religious dude.
Oh yeah.
takes it, does the little prayer right on the thing, and then Ty Gibbs on Saturday gets his first win this season. I could have sworn he had an Xfinity win already this season. I mean, I know he's not racing a full schedule, obviously, but he gets his first win. Big weekend for God. Yeah. So I'm putting God, before we even talk about it, I'm putting God in the over. You know, I think that's the first time we threw him there. Let me ask you something. So we know all about Chase Elliott, right? And this weekend is going to be all about Chase Elliott. Was coming in P2 more frustrating or heartening for him going into Watkins Glen?
I don't know. I don't think you can be like crazy frustrated with it, but I think he probably has a good feeling about Watkins Glen, and I think Chase, maybe not so much this season, is a little bit of like a killer mentality where he probably likes this. He probably likes that he's the favorite. He should win this, and I think he can. Like he proved last week. I'm sure his setup's not that much different. He has a top 2 car. Mm-hmm. I don't think McDowell's going to win this weekend, which would be crazy if he did. But like I think it's Chase's to lose, and I think he probably likes that a little bit.
Suarez also had a pretty good day. Then he had the pit problems near the end. He ran over the air hose, so they had to go and rejack the car to get the air hose out, which I think cost him 6 seconds. But otherwise, Suarez looked very, very fast. I think he should feel good going into this week at least. Yeah, you don't want to pin any blame. And giving credit where credit is due, especially talking about injuries, you know, Bowman with the broken back comes away with a P5, so that back must be feeling better because those long green flag runs in there with a sore back has to be a fucking killer. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I found heartening in the top 5 at Indy. And either way, one of the best parts about this weekend's race or any weekend's race is enjoying an ice-cold Coca-Cola Zero. An ice-cold Coke Zero. We're only a couple of weeks away from being down in Daytona with the Coke people and tearing it up. And I cannot wait to be down there drinking an ice-cold Coke and hanging out with the Coca-Cola family of drivers. So run out, get yourself one to watch the next race. Is this the best Coke ever? There's only one way to find out, and that's to take a taste. And Quiggs is very, very close to having his Coke.
I think next episode maybe.
Yeah? I was actually just going to ask you, what is like determining when you're going to drink it? How do you normally pick?
My normal, like, this podcast, I do it on, like, a happiest or a saddest day of the year. Like, if things are great, maybe a celebratory one, or, like, I need a Coke. But for this, I'm going to use my one this year on my last New York episode of this podcast.
Ah,
okay.
Which I don't know if next week is technically the last, maybe 2, but let's just do it next week.
Oh, and be on the lookout. Our foreplay guys that do all the golf content here and do a great job. Riggs, Frankie, Trent, and the whole crew. They're playing today. We're taping on a Wednesday. They're playing today down in Charlotte. I think one of the Trump courses Denny belongs to, with Denny, Ricky, Stenhouse, Blaney, and Bubba. So that's going to be kind of cool.
That'll be awesome.
Spider might jump down for it. I'm obviously going out. Not obviously. I'm jumping out to West Virginia to do the weigh-in for Rough and Rowdy. So I'm just too busy. But yeah, so I think that's going to be kind of hot because those guys. I heard Ricky Stenhouse is an excellent golfer. So, and I know how competitive Denny is, so it should be pretty cool.
I had FOMO when I heard of this event developing, so I appreciate the fact that they extended the invite. Hopefully, I can make it down on a flight there to join them.
Oh wait, you're actually maybe going?
Yeah.
Wait, this is tomorrow, right? Or
this will be tomorrow.
Okay,
yeah,
I thought it was today when you were talking about it. I was like, yeah, there's no way.
Podcast comes out the next day.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, today.
It's only like week 22, Quiggs.
I'm used to being behind the camera.
I had offered to have us be drink cart girls, kind of follow them around and whatever the sponsor is or whatever to do that about a month ago, and then so they had asked me today also, Spider, but hopefully your schedule could be there because that's a great force to be around. Denny, Stenhouse, Blaney, and Bubba, there'd be a lot of ball breaking. So I think it'd be kind of cool.
Absolutely. Back to the charity thing, Large. While we're at it, we also got invited to Corey LaJoie's Kickball Classic.
Yeah. That's the Friday before the Charlotte, right? For Roval?
I think it's the Thursday before the Charlotte Roval.
Right. Yeah, we got that email asking for our jersey sizes and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. I hope we can swing that. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Without having to
They're
pay
playing a giant kickball tournament in a minor league baseball park. So
That's cool.
I definitely want to see what that's about.
Yeah.
And again, credit to Corey LaJoy for helping the community and the charity foundation and everything. So.
I'm going to go back to what I had mentioned before about the foreigners. Just a reminder, I bet on America last week. I bet on America, and I hit 2 of them. Bell over SVG and then Busher over Kostecki. The Bell SVG one, I sweated out, too. Yeah, so that's what made it. It was, I think, P10, P11. No, it made P9, P10.
9-10.
Yeah. SVG, he was great afterwards. I find this guy to be incredibly likable. That's why I don't want him to be set up for failure here. He was battling with Larson, Bell, and Bowman forever, and then at one point his pit crew had told him that he had the free pass, and he had to yell back to him, "What's a free pass?" This guy's going to be in a Cup car next season. So this is the facts. SVG has been in 2 Cup Series races, his first 2 Cup Series races, and he's had a top 10 finish in both of them. And the last driver to do that was Terry Labonte. So what this guy is doing is absolutely extraordinary. So it doesn't seem like we're flip-flopping here. We're just saying maybe it's a little bit too fast. But what the guy is doing is absolutely extraordinary. The rest of the people that they brought over the pond to race, not so much. Brody Kostecki finished 22nd. Mike Rockenfeller, who was in Noah's car, finished 25th, and he's racing again this weekend for Jimmy Johnson at Watkins Glen. Jensen Button finished 28th, and Kamui Kobayashi finished 33rd.
That's my guy.
That was your guy. He's still racing. And then that road course ringers, we talk about him all the time, and AJ Allmendinger, is always brought up as a road course ringer. You brought him up just before. He had a fucking rough weekend.
Yeah.
He was run down Saturday by Sam Smith and Ty Gibbs. And then Sunday he was spun by Blaney and wound up finishing P26. So Allmendinger did not have an easy day on that road course. Spider, other than that, was there any kind of over-unders that you'd seen from the weekend?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we talked a lot about McDowell. Want to give him his flowers. What he's doing is incredible. He's helping really carry that organization as far as I'm concerned. So definitely showing some love there. And then another guy you mentioned, Daniel Suarez, I was really impressed with his speed. And he still got a top 3 despite the little pit road hiccups. Alex Bowman as well, another guy that you mentioned. Not the biggest fan of him personally, but credit where credit's due. He finished 5th and finally looked like the old Alex Bowman we were familiar with before his back injury. Mm-hmm. And then on to the unders. Guys that I just thought should have finished higher. Kyle Busch, AJ Allmendinger, and then, as you said, again, Joey Logano was just trying to, I don't know what the hell he was doing. If he was struggling, if he was just out for blood. But that did not seem like the Joey Logano that I have grown to love. So taking the under on him there. And then also I'd probably throw in the one-off drivers. So a lot of the guys, Kobayashi, Jensen Button. I know those guys are obviously not super familiar with these cars, but seeing what SVG did at Chicago, when these guys come in and are given an opportunity, I'm just, maybe it's on me, I foolishly expect them to do great things. So struggled a little bit, and yeah, I'd probably put them on the under.
William Byron.
What'd I miss?
William Byron couldn't pass inspection. Like the 24 car couldn't pass inspection. And then had gotten a penalty during the race, but somehow squeaked out a top 15. I don't know how to rate that as an over or under, because he outperformed with all the shit that was going on, but the team, just couldn't get it together. So I don't know how you characterize William Byron's weekend. But let's go on to paint schemes. Paint schemes from this week. I don't know. I mean, what jumped out at you? Spider brought one up to me for next week that could be the paint scheme of the year.
Oh, yeah.
So I almost don't even give a fuck about this week, because next week's, it's paint scheme of the year. What did you see this week? You see anything special?
I have two of my favorites. Kevin Harvick's 4 was really cool. A white car with the red wings on the side of it looked sick.
I had that one too.
New look for Kevin Harvick, so I like that one quite a bit. And then my personal favorite of the week, you just mentioned, who I think you're going to talk about here for next week, Ricky Stenhouse in the Frosted Flakes car.
Those were my 2.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for cereal cars. I still would love to see what's the 5 that used to be?
Frosted, right?
Cornflakes.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. That car was sick, and I wish that thing still ran. So now I guess I'll have to settle for Frosted Flakes. Probably my second favorite cereal behind Fruit Loops.
Wow.
So
It's a bold statement. Frosted Flakes or Corn Flakes? Tony the Tiger?
Frosted. I'm a sugar guy.
Yeah,
I love sugary
Frosted
shit.
Is my 1-1.
Yeah.
No, I think Frosted Flakes is up there.
Yeah.
I was shocked that you have it behind Fruit Loops. That's what caught me on my fucking heels. Big
Fruit
Frosted
Loops
Flakes
is
guy.
gas, man.
You like that?
Yeah, it's so good. Especially you put it in the bowl after you like let it marinate, if you will, and eat all the cereal. The milk with the sugar and like crystals and everything after the fact, the cereal milk is so good. So yeah, Fruit Loops 1, Frosted Flakes 2, and Rice Krispies probably 3. Normal OG Rice Krispies. I know you guys are gonna hate that one.
That's a bad thing. I like the other ones, Rice Krispies now.
All right. Well, maybe we'll do a cereal draft.
We're gonna have to.
Yeah, why not?
Two road courses in a row. We may need a cereal draft.
I'm down to fuck with a cereal draft. But I will tell you guys to consider another car because Kevin Harvick was in the number 4 Mobile One Ford, but Jensen Button was in the number 15 Mobile One Ford, and it had an equally cool like red, white, and blue type thing.
See, I disagree.
Harvick's cool with the wing.
I think Harvick's is significantly cooler.
Yeah, I guess I'm grabbing at straws.
They are both cool, but I just think Harvick's is way better.
Yeah.
To where.
Okay. Well, thanks, fucking pricks, asshole. This week's already locked
Yeah,
up.
you're wrong. You were wrong about that.
This is a Spidey scoop. This isn't mine, but he sent it to us. Ricky Stenhouse, again, the number 47 car. We talk about his paint scheme every week. Next week's is bizarre. Eggo Brunch in a Jar, brought to you by, I don't even know. It's Appalachian Sippin' Cream. So it's by those moonshine people. So I believe they're making almost like a Bailey's Irish cream made with moonshine that tastes like waffles and syrup. That's all that I'm getting off of this. But the car is a gigantic waffle with the syrup drips going towards the back to show that there's some sort of speed to it. Ricky's wearing a full-blown waffle costume. I mean, there's nothing. And it's the Eggo Brunch in a car. I'm jumping into this both feet. Not only do I love the car, I'm going to spend as much money as I need to get a brunch in the jar in my fridge before, and I don't get paid to say this, before this fucking race goes off.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the worst drink of all time. I would have to assume, but I am intrigued by what it is. I would love to try it.
Spider, would you?
It seems like Rick, yeah, of course. I need to know. First of all, I'm not even familiar. Like, is sipping cream a like genre of drinks that already exist?
I don't think so. I mean,
new thing.
The first thing I thought of was like eggnoggish type stuff, but like, I don't think that's what it is. I have no idea.
Sugarlands makes this. Sugarlands makes, it says here it's only 20% alcohol.
Okay, so
it's
that's
only
like
40 proof.
That's like Bailey's.
Yeah, so it's like a Bailey's
level.
type thing. Right, so
like, are you meant to just hold the jar like you're holding like a beer and drink it straight out of that glass?
That's how I would do it, right? Because I have no class. So I'd have to get that jar absolutely ice cold because you can't drink warm cream. But otherwise, it would have to go. And by the way, it's a moonshine jar that they just wrapped in waffles again. They are not being creative with this shit at all. They just want you to know.
I disagree. I think Ricky's marketing staff is the most fucking creative people on earth. Every week, it's a different fire food item that I can't get enough of.
I just don't know about this. There's like some products that come out that it's like, do they ever see this actually taking off? Like, is Eggo sipping cream ever going to be like people's drink of choice?
Do you think
I just don't know. I just don't see this ever working
off the sales?
I don't know, but if it seems like I'm losing track with you guys, it's because I'm checking the availability of it in my in my town right now.
You already got a pallet on its way. Who are you kidding?
So it's simply just waffles and syrup cream liqueur. So that's what Ricky is rocking this week, and so I don't know. I might have to throw a couple of bucks on him because of it. With that, let's go into Watkins Glen. Preview of Watkins Glen brought to you by NASCAR. Again, great season so far. And you're going to go bowling at the Glen this Sunday at Watkins Glen, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on USA. This track is just under 2.5 miles, 2.45 miles, I believe, has 7 turns. It's different from Indy because the elevation changes. I think it goes up or down 141 feet. So 90 laps, total of 220 miles. The stages are going to be after the first 20, after the second 20, then the final 50 into the checkered flag. Last year's winner is Kyle Larson. Hendrick has won the last 4 races here. I'm sure everyone looked at that before they set up their cards. Tony Stewart leads the series with wins with 5 victories. He has the most Cup Series victories there with 5. Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch lead all active Cup drivers with 2 victories each there. AJ Allmendinger and Chase Elliott both had their first win at the Glen. I think that's kind of cool. They're going back to the scene of their first race. Chase was the track's youngest Cup winner at only 22 years old. I'm showing the picture here of when he had won it at 22, and one of the things that stands out to me is that Monster Girl is eyeing him up like a fucking pork chop. That's a 22-year-old Chase, and she's enjoying the cut of his jib, and I'm loving it. 5 drivers are pulling double duty this weekend. Ross Chastain, Bowman is racing on Saturday, Ty Gibbs and Cole Custer. But the whole thing is shaping up to be the Chase Elliott show, right? He's got to win to get in, and this is his best chance. So all eyes are going to be on the 9 car. So before we get into picks, I just want to remind you guys that Cabo Wabo is one of our partners, and they're also the official tequila partner of NASCAR. We have 3 bottles right out here in front of us for those watching on YouTube. It's not just tequila. It's damn good, thick cut, 100% Blue Weber agave tequila. Cabo Wabo Tequila and NASCAR are teaming up to bring this thick-cut flavor to race days at home and at the tracks. The Cabo Wabo Smoke Show, which I've made multiple of, is Cabo Wabo Tequila's signature cocktail made for the NASCAR partnership. Cabo Wabo Tequila is bringing bold flavor to the racetrack. Go to CaboWabo.com to learn all about the Blanco, the Reposado, all they have. You have to be 21 years or older to check this stuff out, but if you do, it is wonderful. And with that, let's close the podcast with picking the tires. Who wants to go first?
I think we should have a Cabo Wabo vlog coming out soon.
Correct.
Yes.
We do.
I think it's done, right?
I do have an email. Yes.
It's just we're waiting approval and stuff, so it should be soon.
Should be out like tomorrow or something. Yes.
See all the Grand Marshal stuff.
Yeah, so the Cabo Wabo 250 was one of the highlights of my career, and Spider and I got to go around Michigan and feel like big shots. So we're going to release the vlog on that.
Yes. We have great footage of Spider. His voice cracking, doing the Sammy Smith thing. Yes, we do. Yeah.
Sammy Smith.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got caught in 4K.
Yeah, so tune in for that.
Yeah. Do you want me to start, or what do you guys want to do?
I'll start.
Yeah.
If you guys don't mind.
You go. I have one pick this week.
You have one pick, so you want to be Anchorman or no? Or do you want to get it out in case somebody dupes it?
I'm going Chase Elliott this week.
Okay.
Like it's do or die. Chase Elliott. We're in it together.
You told me you would never bet on somebody to win a race if it was less than plus 500. Remember when you did? You said that at some point.
I did.
Right. He's plus 450.
Sometimes we lie.
And Truex, your last Truex pick
Things have changed.
Okay. Monday Martin's a little different, right? Because that screws it up. So I think that's a little different.
But this
new information came in for quick.
Yeah, so this is elimination game. Chase Elliott.
Is that a typical lib?
Game 7.
Yeah, that's a typical lib. He just jumps back and
flip-flops
whenever.
Whenever
he wants.
Yeah. I'm gonna cash these tickets, and then you guys can tell me it wasn't a big enough winner.
Plus 450, Chase Elliott. That's what you're riding.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Spider, what do you got?
I got 3 picks, all outrights, and each manufacturer is represented. I'll start with the Fords. Michael McDowell, I believe, is around plus 1,300, and I like him to repeat. We saw Chris Buescher do it, 2 weeks ago, and I think if there's a guy that can do it, it's McDowell. Like I said earlier, I think he's turned a corner. I think he deserves way more respect than he's given, and basing off what we saw last week with the setup and car and success, I expect similar performance this coming week.
What was his odds?
And
plus 1,200.
1,200?
Yeah.
What is it? 1,200?
Yes, I have him on my card too.
Okay. And then in terms of Chevys, I'm going to stick with the same logic. Daniel Suarez finished third despite a few hiccups, and he could have been better. For that reason, I'd like him outright to win, and I think he is around plus 1,100. So add him as my Chevy that I'm taking. I got McDowell as my Ford, who's plus 1,200. And then my Toyota, I'm going to take Martin Truex, a guy who seemingly has good road course success. He won at Sonoma in June, and he's plus 750 or around there to get it done here this weekend. And he's been running really good. Granted, he's cooled off a little bit, but if he's serious about what we've seen this season and his championship pursuit, I would not put it past him to win here at the Watkins Glen and take that bowling trophy home. He's around plus 750. So I got a Toyota, I got a Ford, and then I got Daniel Suarez in the Chevy. So those are my three. They're all outrights. And I do love Chase Elliott. Quiggs, I'm with you. I'm pulling for him. It seems like the same old thing. It's like, although a couple weeks ago when I said that I loved Martin Truex, but I refused to take him because his odds were so low and I'm trying to make up some units, what'd he do? He won. He was my first guy out. Chase Elliott's my first guy out this week. I'm not going to take the plus 350, plus 400, 450, whatever it is. I'm not touching it. Maybe if something happens in the race, I'll jump in live if those odds fluctuate a little. But if they do, it's probably for bad reasoning. So I'm sticking with those three. Those are my big three this week, and it's all guys that have had success as recently as this past weekend or with Truex being earlier this season at Sonoma.
My card is very similar to yours. I have a Ford. I have Michael McDowell plus 275 for a top three finish. I'm just not picking winners. So I have a top three finish plus 275. I think I want to wait to see where these guys wind up on the poll and whatnot before I pick a winner. Michael McDowell, top three. I like the way that William Byron, despite all the shit that had happened, and Hendrick does race very well here, William Byron for a top five is plus 275. I'll grab that too. Yeah, so I'll do McDowell, top three, Byron, top five, both plus 275. I wanted to grab Reddick, and then I wanted to grab Truex, and I just couldn't make up my mind. So I'm grabbing Toyota to win at plus 220. So I have a Toyota, Ford, and Chevy on my card also.
I like that
Toyota
a lot.
win plus 220 and plus 275 on McDowell top three and William Byron top five. Either way, it's going to be one to watch. Watkins Glen this Sunday, 3 o'clock on USA. Reminder that we're going to be having this vlog dropping from Michigan with our Grand Marshal duties that Liam has put together for us. And then the following week, we're going to be in Daytona. We're going to be fishing in Lake Lloyd, right? So NASCAR has set it up. And again, it's fantastic. NASCAR has 2 boats ready for us. We're going to jump on a boat. We're going to get a couple of drivers. Truex said no. Whatever. So we're going to get a couple of drivers. And on the other boat, we're going to have the cameras. And we're going to go out there and just try to, wet
awesome.
some lines.
Do you guys know the driver yet? Or
no, I don't believe.
We're working on a couple things. This is kind of like a Sydney Wells production. She's kind enough to take us fishing and show us the ropes and show us how to actually wet the line. I relayed to her that Truex was likely unavailable due to an obligation at the Bass Pro Shops outside of the track across the street of Daytona. And she was kind of like, well, I'm going to text Martin. That's the thing. I call him Truex. I call him Truex Jr. She's on a first-name basis. So she's like, I don't know that he's really unavailable. I'm going to text Martin. So who knows? Maybe we can get him. If not, the other names we're kind of throwing around are Austin Dillon and a couple Xfinity drivers, whether it be Jeb Burton, Jeffrey Earnhardt. A lot of these guys love fishing.
Yeah.
And even if we can't get a single driver, I think the experience of fishing Large Sydney on a 29-acre man-made lake stocked
sick.
with like 70,000 bass in the infield of Daytona, it doesn't get cooler than that. So,
and
2 things to be on the lookout for: the Cabo Wabo vlog and then this Daytona fishing expedition.
And Dale Sr.'s car is at the bottom of Lake Lloyd. That's a fact.
That's just a rumor.
So we can go for that.
Not a fact.
So that's it for Rubbin Racing. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
See ya.